Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Shri Krishna. Respected dignitaries, senior members of the profession, and dear colleagues. My name is C.A. Keroli Somaya, and it is a pleasure and a privilege to welcome you all to this LIBF Global CA and Tax Convention, a gathering of professionals who believe not only in excellence in practice, but also in continuous learning, dialogue, and evolution of our profession. This convention has been thoughtfully designed to reflect on the changing landscape of taxation, finance, and advisory, and to reaffirm the importance that chartered accountants and tax professionals continue to play in nation building and economic growth. We are indeed fortunate to begin today's proceedings in the presence of distinguished leaders and stalwarts of the profession whose guidance and experience have consistently inspired confidence and credibility within and beyond the CA fraternity. I would now request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly come up to the dais for the inauguration. May I please invite the conveners of this convention, CA Hasmukh Jobanputra and CA Jitendra Saglani, whose dedication and tireless efforts behind the scenes have made this convention possible. Gentlemen, kindly come up on the stage. Can we have a huge round of applause for them? I would now like to invite CA Hasmukh Jobanputra to share opening remarks.
सतीश भाई आ रहे Good morning, friends. Welcome to all you, my professional brothers, to this evening. The theme of this conference or convention, whatever it call it, is from compliance officer to create wealth creators. The theme was since long in my mind because we all chartered accountants, the majority of us are busy with compliance work. For decades, compliance has been backbone of our practice. We build our credibility on accuracy, timeliness, adherence to the law. That foundation will always remain there, I believe, because I understand and believe that ethical compliance itself is a wealth creator. Of course, it's a subject, totally different subject. We can decide on psychological part. However, the reality today is that all the compliance work is made by machines, automations, etc. And we are doing that work with a human effort which does not make much value addition. And this brings to an important question. If compliance alone defines us, where do we stand tomorrow? The real opportunity before us is to move up to the value chain, from being compliance officers to becoming wealth creators and strategic advisors to our clients. We professionals sit on goldmine of data, financial statements, cash flow, tax positions, risk exposures, succession issues, and business models. If we only file returns and complete audits, we are underutilizing our own potential. But if we interpret this data, guide decision-making, and help clients grow, protect, and transfer wealth, we become indispensable. Friend, this conference is designed with a clear objective to reorient our mindset, what is required to be filed to what is required to be created. Second, to understand how we can help clients with financial planning, tax optimization, business structuring, succession planning, investment decisions, and risk management. To equip ourselves with skills that go beyond compliance and position us as a trusted advisors and wealth partners. We are not saying that we want to abandon the compliance because our practice is built on the compliance and that has given our trust of our clients. But advisory and wealth creation gives us relevance, respect, and sustainability. I urge all members to use today's deliberation not just as a technical sessions, but as a moment of introspection. That is, number one, what does my client really expect from me? How can I contribute to my client's long-term financial well-being? How do I redesign my practice for the next decade? This stage, I highly appreciate my co-convener Jitendra Bhai. Without his efforts, this conference would not have been to the level it is. I also at this stage, our President Bharat Bhai Vasani is not here because of his daughter's marriage. Also, his huge contribution to our Lohana tax professional group. I also highly appreciate the professional brothers from Gujarat and Saurashtra who managed a lot of meetings when I traveled there and made this convention great success. I also appreciate the students of Lohana Vidyarthi Bhavan Vadala who has made a huge contributions for logistics, back office, and so many things. So congratulations to all the students of Vadala Hostel, Lohana Hostel Vadala. With this thought, friends, I once again look forward to an engaging, insightful, and transformative conference. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Hasmukhji. I would now like to hand over the dais to Parth Khakhar to set the stage for technical session 1.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Shri Krishna Badane, Jai Raghuvansh, Jai Mahaparishad. It gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to the Lohana International Business Forum, the CA and Tax Practitioner Conclave. LIBF has consistently stood the thought leadership and relevance, and today's conclave truly reflects how our profession is evolving, expanding, and embracing the new opportunities. I am Parth Khakhar, CA final student of Lohana Vidyarthi Bhavan Vadala and Vice Chairman of Western India Student Association of ICAI. I will be your session coordinator and master of ceremony for today's conclave. Esteemed professionals, today we have 3 panel discussions, each addressing key dimensions of modern professional practices. Let us now begin with the session 1. Ladies and gentlemen, for decades, compliance has been the foundation of our profession. However, capital market advisory represents a shift from reporting values to value creation. Today, chartered accountants are increasingly contributing as investment advisors, transaction support professionals, and strategic growth partners. This session aims to discuss how professionals can make the transition, their skills and mindset, what mindset is required, how we can build trust and credibility in capital market advisory. It's my privilege to invite our esteemed panelists for kindly join on the dais. CA Vijay Mantri, Mr. Deven R. Chokshi, CA Raghav Iyengar sir, CA Jitendra Saglani sir. I request with a huge round of applause for the panelists to join over the dais. To start with the session 1, it's now my privilege to introduce the moderator of the session 1, CA Jitendra Saglani. CA Jitendra Saglani is the chairman of Western India Student Association of Chartered Accountancy of ICAI and brings him with nearly 2 decades of professional experience. With strong understanding of professional practice and his leadership role with ICAI, he is excellently well suited to moderate today's session. I request CA Jitendra Saglani sir to kindly take forward the session. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Parth. Friends, my heart was heavy yesterday because we have seen past President C.A. Jaideep Shah sir passing away. I'll request everyone to kindly rise for a minute in the fond remembrance of C.A. Jaideep Shah sir, the past President of ICAI. Om Shanti. Thank you, everyone. So friends, Parth has already set the context of what we are going to cover here today. And we have 3 eminent guests in the form of Mr. Deven Choksi, CA Vijay Mantri ji, and CA Raghav Iyengar ji. I think we should not be wasting any moment because we want to hear them, not me, not anyone else. But a formal introduction of them is definitely required. And I'll request the team of students who will be volunteering here and presenting their introduction of the panelists. I'll request first and foremost Teerth Soda to do the honors of introducing CA Vijay Mantri ji.
For every aspiring professional in this room, our guest represents the pinnacle of what a CA qualification can achieve. From the rigorous world of accountancy to the office of global mutual funds, CA Vijay Mantri has navigated the capital markets for over 30 years. An Indian School of Business alumni and a former CEO of Deutsche Mutual Fund and PGI Mutual Fund. He is a strategist who understands both the numbers and the people behind them. Having chartered the institutional legacy of Aditya Birla Group and HDFC Group, he brings the wealth of institutional wisdom to this stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with a huge round of applause, CA Vijay Mantri. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teerth. I'll now request Yash Adia to please come forward and introduce eminent panelist, Mr. Deven Choksi.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to introduce Mr. Deven R. Choksi, a highly respected investment management professional and entrepreneur with over 4 decades of experience in Indian equity markets. He is the founder and managing director of DR Choksi, DR Financial Choksi Private Limited, a SEBI-registered firm based in Mumbai. His firm has aspired a research-driven growth for long-term wealth generation. Mr. Choksi is widely followed a market commentator, a thought leader, and regularly sharing insights over digital platforms, over nationwide television channels. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Deven R. Choksi.
Thank you so much, Yash. I'll now request Mr. Utsav Jobanputra to welcome and introduce CA Raghav Iyengar ji.
Ladies and gentlemen, leadership, when sustained over decades, becomes legacy. The panelist truly embodies this thought. CA Raghav is the CEO of 361 AMC, bringing with him over 3 decades of leadership in India's financial services ecosystem. He leads firms' strategic direction and works closely with investment teams to strengthen market presence. His role spans over institutional engagement, global coordination, and risk management. Ladies and gentlemen, to share his insights on the topic from compliance to Capital Markets Advisory. With a warm round of applause, please join me in welcoming CA Raghav Iyengar.
Thank you so much, Utsav. Friends, we cannot do much for these three panelists, but just can felicitate them, and I'll request the Vice President of Lohana Mahaparishad from Ahmedabad, CA Dharmesh Haryani ji, to please come forward and felicitate the three panelists with mementos. Team, mementos, please. Thank you so much, Dharmesh bhai. Friends, it's time to start with the discussion. And I think we had a script, frankly, discussed. But without getting into the script, sir, I'll just request you to please take the mics. Just to start with, sir, and I'll ask this question to Devin bhai, the senior most in the panel. Yesterday, we saw the precious metal crashing. And I am very much sure people out here want to understand what was the reason it rose so much, what was the reason of crash, what could be the possible, say, outlook for that, please, in your words, in your time.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. And to begin with, I think the most complex question for which none of us have an answer.
No, I have an answer.
Yeah, of course. I think you will have plenty of answers. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, it's actually a humorous answer. I think it went up because there were more buyers than sellers. And yesterday it went down because there were more sellers than buyers. Right?
There you are.
And then to add some color to that whole statement is I'll leave it to the expert.
There you are, Raghav. Thank you so much. Well, I think the subject, I think, which is very close to my heart, which I follow very regularly, have been tracking, I think, Ray Dalio and his currency nations, the subject. This is regarding dollar in this era. In earlier period, it used to be, I think, the other currencies. Every currency lives for about 100 years. And I think dollar probably is now closer to that 100-year period, as I see it. And all this situation that we are now today seeing about the currency movement, we are seeing the movement of the precious metals, they all come from this particular situation, wherein the currency dollar, I think, is now gradually taking the back seat. Globalization process has already started, we all know. It has brought in de-dollarization process. None of the investors, sovereign funds, etc., they used to keep money, or they are still keeping money in dollar assets. They want to withdraw this money back from dollar assets. And that's where probably I think we are having a challenge in this world. When you start withdrawing money from dollar assets, where do you park this money? So again, I think the bullion standards have started emerging. Gold standards will once again start coming back. Today, the demand for the precious metals coming in largely from the central bankers. This demand is not coming from the domestic users, the jewelry users, as you want to call them as, is not coming as much from the industrial use as well, though industrial use is now becoming more dominant for silver in particular. The larger part of this demand is generated from the central bankers. They are basically wanting to sell off the dollar assets, put money into the gold and the silver as a collateral as well. So today the demand situation has actually, I think, started rising, which you said in a very lighter vein. But I think the demand situation has started coming up from the financial investor like central banks. And that's where you are seeing this particular situation today. Uh, where do we see this trend? Well, I think it's a journey that we'll have to travel. I don't think that I think we have the clear crystal ball available about the timelines. But if the analysis of Red Dalio is correct, then probably the 100 years of dollar dominance getting over somewhere in 2040, 2050. So next 10, 20 years are going to be very interesting years in which I think the dollar assets are going to come out and probably you're going to see similar such kind of trends happening, which we are seeing right now in gold and silver. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the bumps that we have seen. I guess I think we'll be part of this particular journey, I suppose.
Thank you so much, sir. Friends, I think he covered very comprehensively. While talking to Vijayji and Raghavji while they were entering, I asked Vijayji, sir, silver पे बात करनी है, gold पे बात करनी है. उन्होंने कहा कि we can have a full session on that today. So Vijayji, now it's up to you to cover this, but in a limited time, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is very good disclaimer from your side. मंत्री और लिमिटेड टाइम वो दोनों साथ जाता नहीं है. मंत्री के सामने माइक दे दिया फिर आप बोलते हैं लिमिटेड टाइम तो ठीक है फिर भी मैं रिस्पेक्ट योर व्हाट यू आर सेइंग. So first of all, a compliment to Lohana Samaj and thank you very much for calling us. And as I was entering, he was telling me that earlier you were warriors. रघुवंशी थे आप लोग, बाद में आप लोग व्यापार में चले गए थे. So the warriors become trader, and today trade is being used as a war. So your community was ahead of time. Okay. There's so much to learn from our books and scriptures about the way one need to live, the one we need to look at investing. So if you look at Jain community, they say, see, any temple in any town have a life of 100 years because they believe the town have a life of 100 years. After 100 years, the new town emerges and people need to move there. Whenever any empire crushes, the metal is one of the things to look at. It's always ended very badly for the empire. And Devan Bhai rightly mentioned, it is the dollar. And if you just look at gold, the world produces 3,500 tons of gold every year. India and China import almost 50% of them. And across the globe, these are the two civilizations which had a continuous history of more than 5,000 years. So only in these countries, the gold is being used by actual citizens. Rest of the world, the gold is being used as a medicinal properties, industrial uses, or central banks buying it. Central bank was not buying because dollar was a natural hedge against currency depreciation or uncertainty. Now that hedge is moving. So we don't know what trajectory, very honestly, it will take. So that is the one part to keep in mind. The second part to keep in mind is just listen to your homemaker, your spouses. Why Indian women are considered to be the smartest fund manager today? Because they haven't had any view on gold. आज सुबह मॉर्निंग में आपका दोस्त बोल रहा होगा गोल्ड 10% नीचे गिर गया बेच दो आपकी वाइफ शायद खरीदेगी. View based investing in my opinion is extremely dangerous. Women are better investors in my opinion because they haven't looked at कि आज यूक्रेन रशिया क्राइसिस हो गया चलो एक रिंग खरीद के ले आते हैं. No, they bought gold with a very clear intent that I don't have to sell it, bought at every prices. And let's look at, we are talking about dollar depreciation. Let me give some data to you. In last 10 years, the rupee has depreciated almost from 40, 55, 60 to 80, 90. So 40, 50% depreciation of INR against USD. But in last 10 years, Indian women bought 10,000 tons of gold. So Indian women did what no economist told them to do. They went short on dollar, long on gold. Now, what will happen on metal? It's very interesting to know. And how do you play it? So in the business of investing, we look at predictability of outcome. where is a higher probability that I'll end up making money? There are many people who gave their view on gold and silver, and they were bang on target. Someone told 1 year back, someone told 2 years back, someone told 3 years back. That is not the question. The question is, how much part of your portfolio is invested in gold and silver? That will move the needle. Your opinion doesn't move the needle. Now, when you look at investing, why you have 50% plus into fixed deposit? Because the outcome is predictable, so Indians have 50% into fixed deposit. Why equity is emerging? Because very honestly, equity is one of the most predictable asset category, and perhaps if time permit, I'll explain why it is the most predictable asset category. The challenge with precious metal, it is completely driven by demand and supply, and when millions of people are buying and selling, it is your ability to figure out the psychological makeup of millions of people, and that's why it is very impossible. So if you ask me, I have no view.
Sir, thank you so much for that elaborate answer. I'll now request Raghavji. Raghavji, we all here, most of us here are chartered accountants as well as business owners. Along with that, we have tax practitioners as well. Now, just coming on to your journey from becoming a chartered accountant and now, say, handling an AMC as a CEO. Sir, थोड़ा सा बताइए ना कि कैसे आप इस तरह लैंड अप हुए इसमें और कैसे हम चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स भी इस तरह से इसमें लैंड अप हो सकते हैं.
Thank you very much, by the way, to invite me for this lovely, lovely, lovely event. And I'm so happy to see so many of you. Normally on a Saturday morning, people take it easy in Bombay at least, but you've been able to fill the room. So thank you so much. I wish I had a very nice answer to give you, saying that I had a fantastic, I'm a visionary, and 35 years back when I started, I felt mutual funds will grow from, in those days, maybe less than 1 lakh crores to today, whatever, 82 lakh crores, right? But I actually left I got into CA because frankly, my dad made me do it. I think I must compliment him for it. We have 3 of us in the house. He made sure one of us is a CA, one of us is a doctor, and one of us is an engineer. So he started the process of diversification long time back, which we are all talking about today, that gold, silver, etc. And then I struggled through CA. I'm not a first attempt. I must share with all the students in the room, very importantly, because I think today there's a lot of pressure on the students that if you don't pass in the first attempt, you will never get successful. I think that's complete nonsense. And I'm a walking, talking example of it. If you consider me successful, I do consider myself successful because I'm sitting on the stage, not for any other reason, right? Okay, so number 3, lastly, I think then it's just that I joined mutual funds because of a mobile phone. 1997, 98, I was working with an investment banking company. We used to have pagers. So obviously, when I went for my interview, the pager rang. My that time boss who was interviewing me said, in our company, we don't believe in pagers. We will give you, with a foreigner, he said, we will give you mobile phones. I said, wow, this is a damn good thing to do, yaar. Bahut badhiya company hai. So I'm sorry to say this, especially to the students, maybe not to the business owners, maybe boring for you, but the students is that just be very, very flexible in what you do. And like Vijay keeps talking about, like we compound our money over time, please compound your careers over time, right? It's very, very important. I think we tend to take these very rash, short-term decisions. The last 30 years of mutual funds have not been without any stress. And Vijay and I have lived through some of that stress. There have been fantastic regulatory changes. Every 3 years, we used to think that industry abhi band ho jayega. We lived through Ketan Parekh, we lived through the infrastructure scam, we lived through global financial crisis, we lived through 2000 pigs, where we were, by the way, a pig country. I don't know if you remember PIGS, used to be, India was one of the fragile 5, right? Along with a few other countries. So we've lived through all of that, and today we are fortunately in a better place. So if you are able to give time to something, be a bit flexible, work hard, which anyway CA makes you do because the exam is so tough, I think you will be very successful over a period of time.
So I'll just add, to be successful in career, suppose I ask you to pronounce A, B, C, T till Z. So I ask you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I. You will do in 4 seconds or 5 seconds or 9 seconds. There are 26 alphabet. And if I tell you, again do 1 to 26, you say 1, 2, 3, 25, you will do in 4 seconds. So alphabet you will do in 9 seconds, number you will do in 4 seconds, both you will complete in 13 seconds. Now suppose I ask you to do A1, B2, C3, you will not finish in 2 minutes. So multitasking is a scam. Focus is very important. Suppose whatever walk of life, if you are in forensic audit, if you are doing auditing, whatever you're doing in your chosen profession, if you keep deep focus, your moment of truth will come in life. So that is my sense. You want to build career, have focus.
Wonderful, wonderful answer. I think we should all clap for this answer, both the answers rather. Multitasking is a scam. Friends, I wish to ask Devin Bhai here. Devin Bhai, today is a Saturday. Tomorrow is the day when the budget comes up. And seeing the market, say you rise up in the morning, you see the Dow, you see the other indices, and now you presume that what market would be opening. So, sir, क्या लगता है आपको कि क्या देखने के बाद इन्वेस्टर का इंस्टिंक्ट क्या लगता है कि कैसा थॉट प्रोसेस चल रहा है?
देखो वे अभी तो पैसा लगता है क्योंकि the market basically I think is moving in a direction where I think all the fundamentals are ignored completely except one, and that is currency. The currency is a spoil sport. I think the majority of the amount of money which has basically got pulled out of this country is largely because of the view that they carried that rupee will depreciate against the dollar. You would not have imagined that I think when the dollar itself is falling, how would rupee depreciate against the dollar? On the contrary, I think rupee should be strengthening, particularly when I think the economy itself I think is doing so well. Never before in my 40 years of career I have seen this many number of checkbox items getting right. You have GDP growth, you have inflation on a lower side, you have interest rate on a lower side, your industrial production is on a higher side, your corporate earnings are stabilizing at 15% rate of growth. All the checkbox items I think are going right, and I think the currency is going down, and that's why the market is confused. Maybe I think this kind of money got pulled out in a short time, in a span of around 9-10 months in this financial year. Probably I think that is one of the reasons for which I think we are seeing this pressure. Now, there is a story why this money got pulled out. So if we understand this story, probably I think we will know how to invest in equity a little bit more easier. They are pulling out this particular money, A, because I think they had a view on the dollar, they had a view on the rupee, and probably I think the rupee fell, so they are validated. They probably wanted to save their downside risk in the currency, which they brought in by way of dollar. That was the first point. Adding fuel to the fire, I think in this kind of a situation, when they pull out this kind of money with the currency depreciating, I believe that I think the larger part of the view has been, I think, on the bullion assets, where I think they took the money out, started putting money back into bullion assets, because most of the global funds, when they bring money into India, they are largely leverage funds. And as a result of which, I think this money getting pulled out is also to square the leverages back home and at the same time shift money into the other asset classes. So these are few points on which I think the market fell, against which I think the fundamentals of the corporates are showing some remarkable, I think, growth prospects going forward as well. And that's where I believe that I think with budget or without budget, I think Indian market offers compounding opportunity. This kind of fall are God-gifted opportunities in my viewpoint. You may not be right in a shorter duration, but maybe I think this kind of falls, they give you opportunity to accumulate gradually the kind of investments that you want to make in your portfolio. So yes, I think the budget would probably, I think, second this thought in my viewpoint tomorrow. Let's see, I think, what they have to announce. Maybe I think their prior agendas are also to ensure that the currency outflow, how it can be prevented. I think that could be one of the main things that they would be possibly putting across. So let's see how exactly it comes out. But with budget, without budget, in my viewpoint, I think when the market goes down, it's an excellent opportunity. Because one point which I would like to just add here, in my study of last 100 years, I have come across few things. Those countries which are developed countries today, they have had the fortune of 20 years in that 100 years. 1930 to 1950, America invested significantly in infrastructure. They built the economy. Japan, post-World War II, I think they built the economy from 1960 to 1918 kind of period. Smaller country like South Korea, from nowhere, I think they created the economy between 1980 to 2000. China, classic example, 1990 to 2010, 2015. India, whose turn has come, I believe that we have already entered into this 20-year period of 100 years, which is 2015 to 2035. We have crossed 10 years. The 10 more years are to go. And if this is a conviction that one has, going by the history as well, I believe that I think this is an opportunity when the market comes down. So thank you, budget, if you are giving some kind of opportunity for further investing.
So I think your view is we should thank Mr. Market. It's giving a beautiful opportunity for us to invest. I'll come on to Vijayji. Vijayji, we are chartered accountants here, tax practitioners here. How do we shape up our careers when it comes to capital markets? Where to start with? Where to fit in the ecosystem?
So the highest paid in jobs in the world are the jobs in which you need to handle uncertainties. You're not sure about the future outcome, but you need to handle the future outcome. So a commentator in cricket get paid, but not as much as the player who's playing, because player is handling uncertainty, commentator is commenting on that uncertainty. What actually happened. So if you want to build career, build a skill set where you can handle uncertainty, whether it is in a business of investing, handling client, whether it is a question of, look at lawyers, they go to the court, they handle uncertainty because they don't know outcome, what will come from the court. So if you want to make money in a career or even any other asset category, we should be able to handle uncertainty, because certainty means the most outcomes are behind us. So build that. Don't be scared of uncertainty, volatility, all kind of stuff. And when you do a lot of hard work, then you're not bothered about uncertainty, because you built a deep down in you the expertise that you're able to pull it through. So I think that is very, very important from my perspective. Next 30, 40 years are going to be fantastic year for Indian economy. And I give 2, 3 data points to make this point. Number one is that perhaps first time in the world history that all major economies are getting older and India is getting younger. Never happened in the world history. Only it is happening right now. Second is, everybody in the world want to see 145 crore people's market. They don't want to see 145 crore people coming as a competition. Nobody likes that, because they lost China and they believe now they can rule India. Third is that the way we handle Donald Trump right now is really, no other countries handle it better. You heard the Prime Minister of Canada speak, brilliant speech, went viral. Very good for social media. But the way India handled it, put the head down, do the hard work, signed 22 FTAs. We had 22 FTAs. Amazing. And I'll just talk about what happened with the EU. Our electronic export has gone up from $200 billion to $600 billion. Our chemical export has gone up from $150 to $400 billion. But let's look at what happened to leather, textile, all these products where they're labor-intensive industries. They remain flat. Now, with this FTA, which will take few years to tariff to go down, it will provide fantastic opportunity to us to give jobs to many people, because ultimately manufacturing need to grow to give employment to people. So, chartered accountant can help a client in various things. So just go beyond your traditional way of doing things. And one of the most important thing government need to do is, actually, I was sitting with this kind of panel. There were 3 economists and I was only non-economist person, and they were giving different perspective what government need to do. So at that time, मैंने एक story सुनाई कि एक हॉस्पिटल के बाहर 3 डॉक्टर खड़े थे, एक ऑर्थोपेडिक सर्जन था, एक न्यूरो सर्जन था, एक डायबिटीज ट्रीटमेंट करने वाला था, और एक पेशेंट, एक आदमी चल रहा था, वो लंगड़ा के चल रहा था. तो न्यूरो सर्जन ने बोला इसके ब्रेन में प्रॉब्लम है, ऑर्थोपेडिक ने बोला टांग टूटा हुआ है, कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट ने बोला कि इसके हार्ट में कुछ प्रॉब्लम होगा, डायबिटीज़ वाले ने बोला कि इसको कुछ डायबिटीज़ का प्रॉब्लम है. वो थोड़ी देर आगे गया, उसने चप्पल मोची को दी, मोची ने चप्पल ठीक की, वो सीधा चलने लग गया. तो अगर देश को आगे बढ़ना है तो सरकार को व्यापारियों को और प्रोफेशनल को ट्रस्ट करना पड़ेगा. व्यापारी चोर है, प्रोफेशनल चोर है, इस mindset से बाहर निकलना पड़ेगा. Any country which is prospered has respected the business people, has respected the professional. It's very important that government take leap of faith and start trusting. And it is our responsibility to communicate respective leaders in our community, wherever we meet, a municipal councillor, MLA, whenever we get opportunity, represent our view that you need to trust the business person. एक व्यापारी चोरी करके करेगा क्या? शादी में पैसा लगाएगा, बड़ा घर लेगा. So what is the biggest ego for a व्यापारी? उसके व्यापार बढ़ना चाहिए. आज तक इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद सरकार ने खाली 75 लाख जॉब क्रिएट किए हैं सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने. और आईटी इंडस्ट्री itself is created 60 lakh job after 1990. So who will create more jobs? So it is very important that the government get the message through various channels that you need to trust entrepreneurs.
Very nice answer once again. I think we should all compliment him for that answer. I'll request Raghavji. Raghavji, just to highlight, as I already asked you, that being a CA, you are in the AMC industry. But then now being there as a CEO, and you see people practicing out here. So what is a, say, career opportunity for we chartered accountants who are into practice? How to take up this, say, compliance journey to wealth creation journey forward?
A superb question. I think and my biggest regret in my career in the last 30 years is that I've not been able to get many of you to come into asset management. And I'm not saying, and you know, my company is full of people, my operations, my risk, to some extent, my finance, everything is controlled by chartered accountants. Where I miss chartered accountants the most, Jitendra, is in the front. Because what does a CA have? He has two beautiful letters, CA. You know, my wife trusts my chartered accountant more than me, by the way. She wants to know my net worth. She'll call my chartered accountant. She won't call me. She won't tell me. She says, yaar, ye Raghav kuch छिपा के रखा होगा. CA को सब पता है. Am I right, guys? But that knowledge, unfortunately, is not getting used productively. And I think that's also, in some sense, because of the way we are trained. We are trained for outcomes, right? If CA people come to us and say, what is the effect of this law? What is the effect of this provision? So we are used to giving very precise, crisp answers. Investments is a business of probability. Like Vijay rightly said, our job, or sir said just now, that money goes on probabilistic basis. So 3-4 saal pehle, people took a call saying that, yeah, maybe US dollar is not the right place to be in, so maybe you start looking at other things. You could have gone right, you could have gone wrong, right? But you take it on the basis of probability. I think so for me, my biggest thing is to see you guys more in the front line, really looking and advising your clients on the journey of wealth creation. CAs, unfortunately, today are not seen as wealth managers. They are not seen as wealth managers. And I feel very sad about it because I think the level of trust, because what does a wealth manager first command? He commands trust, right? Unfortunately, CAs have that trust. We don't talk about it, right? No, because the clients don't see them as people who can advise on investments or advise on behavior, right? They're used to getting very crisp advice. I think that's the biggest opportunity today. To my mind, the rest of it is actually a big job threat. And like I completely agree with sir in his opening remarks, AI, for example, will eat up a lot of those compliance, risk, operations jobs today. I mean, I can share in our own company, we have increased the number of companies that we researched. From about 350 companies, we research about 700 now. We have added 3 analysts to a team of 10. That's all. So just please understand what I'm saying. My number of companies double ho gaye, but my number of people are just increasing to 3. And I'm reasonably sure the 700 will go to 800, 900 as AI improves. Because the system that we have built internally using AI takes care of all the financials. It presents the data in a format. Let's say sir's company, maybe 15 years back, you would have people running in the night trying to work when results are coming, budget is coming. I'm 100% sure tomorrow finance minister finishes a speech at 12:30. All of us in this room, irrespective of whether they are a wealth manager, leading industrialist, will get crisp data points by 3 p.m. That's the magic of AI. So my concluding remarks are, please, yes, compliance, risk, accounts, finance, they're all very important professions. But please look at front-facing jobs. Look at people-facing jobs. Look at jobs which involve some amount of emotion, because those jobs are not going to go away anywhere, right?
So, I tell you why CA going forward will do much better on wealth management, and a lot of CA will come, because till date we had insurance, normal mutual fund, and a little bit of variants in that. But today within mutual fund you have factor-based investing, mid small cap, then you got SIF, then you got AIF, within your Gift City. So the kind of product basket available, it is not possible for someone who's not technically very sound to understand all the product, their implication. So you need a very good academic background to understand all of them to talk to your client. You just can't dish out mutual fund product. You need to explain them SIF, long short क्या होता है, credit opportunities क्या होती है, gift city के through international investing कैसे करते हैं. So when the product become more complicated, which is actually is becoming, and going forward will become more complicated, I think more CAs can add value and can differentiate themselves from normal somebody selling financial product.
So
Jitendra, I just want to add one thing to what
please,
Vijay said.
please.
My friends, especially on the student side, who are starting careers, don't make the mistake that we did 30 years back. Most of the presentations that were done in large forums, the data was given by CAs. But the talk was given by MBAs. Nobody remembers the person who made the data. People remember the person who talked. Right? So again, coming to Vijay's point, don't be the person who's compiling the data on all these products. Be the person who's talking about it. That's very, very important. Please.
Sir, I think this...
And best of the chartered accountant got opportunity to change the slides.
I think this platform of LIBF is giving us this opportunity for showcasing the talent and coming forward and actually interacting with you and getting that insights. My next question goes to Devenji. Devenji, you come from the industry which is very much client-centric, the broking industry. The intermediation is very strong in your industry. And sir, how do you see chartered accountants when it comes to this particular industry of yours?
Well, I think inseparable part of this industry, chartered accountants are. You look at any area, I think how the CAs are being trained. I think you are basically trained to look at things in a very minute manner. Okay, you are trained to basically look at, I think, the risk and I think mitigate the risk. So obviously, I think in each and every area of operations, I think it starts with CA. Frankly, I think even to form a company, you require a chartered accountant. To set right all the processes, you require, I think, this skill. In my viewpoint, I think today's businesses, I think you mentioned brokerage business. I'm more into the fund management side of the activity though. But in the brokerage business also, today I think if you look at, by the hours, number of hours that you put as an organization into the brokerage practice, I think somewhere around 30 to 35% or maybe 40% hours must be spent, I think, for the purpose of managing the compliances. Then comes, I think, the role of technology as to how do you leverage the technology and create the business out of it. And then I think the time which is spent for the purpose of relationship management, business building, idea generations, etc. In my viewpoint, I think if the compliances and other aspects, I think, are the ones, I think, where the CAs are basically training their eyes, probably as Raghav rightly mentioned, I think use of AI, I think, could possibly give them the better opportunity to bring down those number of hours that they are putting across and convert those hours into the productive hours, where probably, I think, you identify the ideas for investment, spend time with customers in making relationships, and create, I think, your further reach through the use of IT platforms, etc. These are some of the main things, I think, which you could do. Fortunately, you have got a base. All you require to do is, I think, change the orientation. Maybe, I think, in a slightly lighter way, if I have to say, IPL and T20s, I think they brought in Abhishek Sharma kind of players, okay, who comes in the match with a determination that every first ball of the over has to be hit for 6. Okay. So this is, I think, the approach. He is a cricketer, like earlier cricketers. But I think his approach has been completely different to the game. He adapted himself to the format. The same approach, I think, is required. In our profession also, I think we require to change the format. Today, I think the brokerage practices, you have variety of activities. You have discount brokerages, you have full service brokerages, you have advisory brokerage services, you have proprietary traders, algo traders. Now, I think if these are the different kind of, I think, practices which are happening, algo traders are like your T20 IPL, Abhishek Sharma kind of profile, wherein I think you keep playing every single minute in the market. Whereas I think the investment format is, I think, something similar to, I think, what you could attribute it to likes of Sachin Tendulkar, who came in as a test cricketer, ended, I think, adding into it with the one-dayers, became the T20 players and so the IPL player. So I think your basic DNA is already in place. Maybe I think you need to adapt to the change environment which this industry is now offering.
Nice answer, sir. Sir, next question to both of you, rather it's an open question. What do you feel mistakes chartered accountants make while discussing wealth with their clients? कैसे client के साथ में वो lucid discussion शुरू कर सकते हैं and ending up becoming a thorough professional later on? थोड़ा सा sir इस पे please.
Wherever people have come and spoken to me, I think they're very focused on the returns, right? Last 1 साल का return, last 5 साल का return. I think frankly, you have to move the conversation away from return. You know, and I think that's unfortunately हमारे DNA में वो. Jitendra, there's nothing we can do about it. You're, like sir said, you have to just, you have the DNA already, you have to change it a bit marginally. You can't change yourself completely. So don't focus on the return, let's just focus on the behavior. Most importantly, what a wealth manager does today is to just make sure that try and moderate the behavior of the customer. Especially, for example, in today's times. I think if we have this FII selling continuing for the next 6 months, suddenly you will see in a period of 2.5 years, almost 30 months, stock market should have given maybe very low returns, possibly single-digit returns. Actually, that's the time where, frankly, people should be accumulating a lot. Unfortunately, most of the clients will start stopping at that time. So I think behavior is the big one. Don't focus on outcomes. Focus on probabilities, like I said. Lastly, I said just use that data which is there and just be confident here. I see a lot of my CA fraternities not being confident. They're very confident in front of the income tax commissioner. जहाँ पे बहुत लोग की frankly फटती है, let's say. They're very confident in front of GST authorities, but they're very, very unconfident when they talk about investment. So I think 3 things. Get a little bit of knowledge. I think it's very easy today thanks to AI. You can sit in this room today and get the latest information on everything. Number 2, get comfortable talking about behavior with customers, that aap karte kya ho, what are your plans, what are your future plans, and then because you have the data already with you, try and make it. And lastly, don't worry about volatility. I think we get very scared of volatility as a profession, right? I mean, hypothetically, let's say last month, if you had advised people to put money in gold, ideally what your customer is looking for is today to just give you a call and say, don't worry, it's fine. I mean, and maybe take some points from Vijay and from Devin that these are changes, and this up-down happens. I think you can get these 3 into your behavior, I think you will be super successful here.
Devin Bhai, for you.
Well, I think the larger amount of focus has been on the risk and risk mitigation. And that is where probably I think your conversation starts with the customer. In fact, I think your conversation should start other way around. You must know your customer well. So I think you should open up a little bit, I think, more in the area of, I think, general subject of interest. And from there, pick up, I think, what your customer wants. Actually speaking, I think your customer has 3 prime requirements in the wealth creation area. A, कितना return मिलेगा, कितना risk है, और कितना liquidity है. ये 3 चीज़ का customer को हमेशा requirement रहता है. And if you try and get that requirement out from him in a very systematic conversation, probably I think that gives you a better opportunity to engage yourself as a professional with your customers. So more important part is that, yes, I think risk mitigation is important, where I think we are basically trained as chartered accountants. But importantly, I think this particular subject is important, that customer's requirement, you must understand. If you start understanding that part, I think it is very easy for anybody to convert it. In fact, I think I'm just going back to these young boys who came up and I think they introduced the panelist. I was observing the amount of confidence and the punch that they were having in their introduction. I think this is something which is required in our community. I think these guys are the role models today, if you ask me. I think they are showing you a complete different path of remaining confident. You remain confident, I think the world is yours.
Beautiful answer, sir. Beautiful. विजय जी, यही क्वेश्चन आपके लिए दैट क्या मिस्टेक चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट करते हैं व्हेन इट कम्स टू एडवाइजिंग और डिस्कसिंग वेल्थ विद क्लाइंट्स?
तो एक गांव में एक बहुत मोटा आदमी था, बच्चा था। गांव में साधु महात्मा की मंडली आई तो उसको खाने पीने का बहुत शौक था, फूडी था। तो साधु महात्मा के साथ बैठ गया तो रोज़ खाना मिल रहा है। फिर 5-7 दिन बाद साधु महात्मा दूसरे गांव जाने लगे तो बच्चे ने माँ बाप से पूछा कि मैं भी जा सकता हूँ, तो बोला चला जा। चला गया। 3 दिन बाद एकादशी आई तो एक व्रत था, अब उसको आदत नहीं है। तो पंडित जी ने सोचा कि आदत नहीं है इसको तो, लेकिन भूखा नहीं रख सकते, तो बोला आई गिव सम फूड आइटम, गो एंड प्रिपेयर फूड, बट खाना खाने से पहले भगवान को भोग लगा देना। तो उसने खाना एक आदमी का बनाया, भगवान को भोग लगाया, राम जी सच्ची में आ गए। तो एक जने का खाना 2 आदमी खा रहे हैं। फिर अगली एकादशी हुई तो राम जी की सीता जी भी साथ में आ गई। ऐसा करते करते राम, सीता, लक्ष्मण सब लोग साथ में आ गए। उधर पंडित जी परेशान हो रहे हैं कि एक आदमी 5-5, 10-10 लोगों का खाना लेके जा रहा, कर क्या रहा है ये। तो वो देखने गए अपने सही शिष्यों के साथ कि क्या हो रहा है। तो वहाँ देख रहे हैं कि वो आदमी है और 5-6 जगह सामान बन रहा है। उधर राम जी रोटियां बना रहे हैं, सीता माँ बर्तन धो रही है, हनुमान जी सब्जी काट रहे हैं, लक्ष्मण जी कुछ और कर रहे हैं। तो वो बोले कि भाई तू 5-6 आदमियों को खाना लेके क्या कर रहा है, गुरु जी पूछे। तो शिष्य बोला कि सर ये देखिए राम जी है, सीता है, लक्ष्मण जी है, भरत जी, शत्रुघ्न जी, हनुमान जी सब है। तो गुरु जी बोले मेरे को तो कुछ दिख नहीं रहा है, तेरे को सब कुछ क्यों दिख रहा है। तो उसने राम जी को पूछा, प्रभु आप मेरे गुरु जी को क्यों नहीं दिख रहे हो। तो भगवान राम ने बोला कि तेरे गुरु के पास ज्ञान बहुत है, मैं सरल लोगों को देखता हूं। तो अगर आपको what mistake people make, if you really ask me what is the biggest risk when I see clients, the biggest risk in my opinion, I have to save my client from their own intelligence. आज लेडीज को हमने बोल दिया कि ये पैसा आपके बच्चे के लिए, आपकी शादी के बच्चे की शादी के लिए, रिटायरमेंट के लिए, वो पैसे को टच नहीं करने देती। आदमी को मॉर्निंग वॉक पे नए नए आइडिया आते हैं। तो पूरा दूसरा हमने क्या देखा है, व्हाट वी ऑब्जर्व दैट इन ए फैमिली one person who's built the organization extremely successful, now that person take all the decision. In Japan there are 1500-year-old family, in Europe 500-year-old family, in USA 200-year-old family. In India why we say Lakshmi doesn't last more than 3 generations? Because family don't put investment policy in place. It is very important that investor, families put investment policy in place, involve the spouse, involve the kids, so the wisdom get passed down from the most successful person to young people to spouses. और आपको एक छोटा सा illustration देता हूँ how this can be very useful. All of us give money to our family, communities, friends. सबने पैसा दिया है ना सर, और 3 महीने के लिए दिया जाता है, अक्सर आता नहीं है वापस. How do you avoid this? So what I have done in my family, me, my spouse and 2 my adult kids, हमने 4 लोगों का इन्वेस्टमेंट कमेटी बनाया है. अब जब मेरे दोस्त और रिश्तेदार पैसा मांगने आते हैं वो 3 मना कर देते हैं. जब मेरी वाइफ के दोस्त या रिश्तेदार मांगने आते हैं तो हम 3 मना कर देते हैं. तो हमारा प्राइवेट लेंडिंग का धंधा ही. एंड किड्स गॉट द अंडरस्टैंडिंग द पावर ऑफ कंपाउंडिंग, पैसा कैसे बनता है. इन्वॉल्व योर स्पाउसेस इन डिसीजन मेकिंग. आई एम टेलिंग यू वुमेन आर बेटर इन्वेस्टर. आप देखो सड़क पे आप लेडी ड्राइव कर रही है, वो गलत पार्किंग कर देगी, वो गलत लेन में ड्राइव कर लेगी, लेकिन एक्सीडेंट कम करती है. सही है ना. एक्सीडेंट कौन करता है ज्यादा? जो जितना होशियार आदमी होता है वो. इन्वेस्टमेंट के अंदर ही वही कहानी है. सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट यू डू प्री एम्प्टिव एनालिसिस दैट what happen if gold tank 20%, what happen if equity market goes up 20%, what happen if somebody default on my debt payment. So it is very important that you have an investment framework in place. So today my biggest concern today, investment framework in place. World is changing, we are not appreciating कितना world change हो रहा. मैं आपको 2-3 social incident बताता हूँ. First time in our recorded history, our girl child is going to inherit lot of wealth. Have we prepared them? Have they prepared themselves to handle wealth? किया है क्या? अभी एक वन फाइनेंस करके कंपनी ने 1300 लोगों का डिवोर्स जो कपल है उनका स्टडी किया क्यों डिवोर्स हुआ. तो लड़कों के लिए नंबर 1 रीजन वाज मनी, लड़कियों के लिए नंबर 1 रीजन वाज अनबन विद मदर इन लॉ एंड नंबर 2 वाज मनी. और जो 1300 लोगों ने डिवोर्स लिया, दे हैड अ मनी फाइट एवरी मंथ. So compatibility with your partner when you're getting married about money matters become very important. और मैं आपको कितने इलस्ट्रेशन दे सकता हूँ कि जहाँ आपने जो लेगेसी एसेट क्रिएट किया, मेरा एक क्लाइंट है 65 साल के हो गए, अभी 20 करोड़ का लैंड बेच रहे हैं, 13 करोड़ कैश आ रहा है. कैसे हैंडल करेंगे आप इन चीज़ों को? बिकॉज यू आर असेट हैवी, कैश लाइट. तो ये बहुत मार्केट इंडिया में आप कहीं भी पैसा डालोगे पैसा बनेगा, रियल एस्टेट में बनेगा, गोल्ड में बनेगा, इक्विटी में बनेगा. सवाल ये उठता है कि आप किस तरह का स्ट्रक्चर इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लान अपनी फैमिली के बनाते हो और किस तरह उस पर स्टिक करते हो, रादर देन जस्ट गोइंग बाय व्यूज और गोइंग बाय न्यूज़ फ्लोज. वहाँ पैसे का नुकसान ज़्यादा होता है मेरे हिसाब से. तो द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज आई सी investor themselves.
Wonderful, wonderful answer, friends. We should compliment him with the claps. सर, एक क्वेश्चन ऐसा, इक्विटी की हम सब बात कर रहे हैं, वेल्थ की बात कर रहे हैं, गोल्ड की बात हो गई. अभी हमने जो टच नहीं किया वो फिक्स इनकम पार्ट है. और मुझे लगता है आप तीनों बहुत अच्छा वैल्यूडेशन कर सकते हो. ऑल ऑफ यू कैन एक्चुअली ऐड वैल्यू टू दिस डिस्कशन एज वेल. आई रिक्वेस्ट देवेन जी फर्स्ट एंड आई रिक्वेस्ट लास्ट टू कंप्लीट विद विजय जी.
Yeah, I think the asset allocation part, I think depends on your requirement, actually speaking. If my fixed income component has to be there in my portfolio, then I think it goes with my overall requirement in my investments, in my requirement of my meeting my obligations in my life, in my business life, in my personal life as well. So generally, I think people allocate this particular sum of money to different areas. Maybe some money is allocated towards, I think, growth assets. Some money is allocated towards risk mitigation assets, which we call insurances as well. And some money is allocated towards liquidity, which is by way of fixed income, I think, which we get allocated. But there is no one formula which governs everybody. Every one of us sitting in this room may have a very different requirement. Suppose somebody who is, I think, at one level wealthy, I think they may not require completely the insurance, I think, which otherwise, I think, would be desperately required by somebody who is the sole earner in the family, right? Similar situation could be, I think, one, I think, who is having the surplus assets available which generates income. I think they may not require immediately, I think, the fixed income kind of a requirement. They may be probably deriving this income from their other business and professional activities. So it is, I think, a very subjective way of looking at it. Now one common formula in my understanding up till now has worked. Maybe if you go back into the history and probably, I think, get some amount of, I think, inferences from the history. Jeremy Siegel has done some study on various asset classes, I think, of 100 years, how they have behaved. And I think I did not update myself for last few years. But I think at the beginning of this century, I think the numbers work like this. That if one has invested $1 in Dow Jones in 1900th century, I think that $1 would have become somewhere around $17,000 at the end of 2005 or something. Now, if this same number had been invested in any other securities, say for example government securities, that return is in 3 digits. Gold, maybe I think this last 2-3 years, I think exceptional. But I think otherwise, if you see gold as a history, I think the return has not been, I think, as high as the equity has generated. Somewhere, I think, lower than that. So in my viewpoint, I think this study, historical study, also gives you some ideas as to how do you allocate your money into different asset classes. But more importantly, I think it depends on what your basic needs are. And that is why I think he emphasized on the planning part of it. And I believe that I think the financial planning part, I think, can probably dictate the requirement of fixed income or growth assets like equity or risk mitigation assets like insurances.
Thank you so much, Devin Bhai. Raghavji, over to you.
No, I completely agree with sir that I think it's a It's a very, very individual decision. But fixed income is, if I were to take an example of a car, it's like a bit of a shock absorber. And people remember fixed income when markets go bad, right? Like, when does fixed income, last year, everybody started talking about bank deposits because 1 year returns of equity suddenly went down. So it's very comparative. But one thing I'd like to leave you all with is the maximum money creation is not made by investing in the right assets. It's asset allocation. So you may, and one way to do it is to do it through asset allocation funds, where you allow a professional to manage assets for you. And then, like Sir said, depending on market conditions, you go up and down, in various asset classes. That's easy today to do. For lazy investors like me, like I think 25% of my portfolio sits in multi-asset allocation. Because I'm a very lazy investor. I believe that I should pay somebody, an expert, to do the job. And my job is to make as much money as I can by working hard. Right? Yes, I don't leave it completely. Once in a year, I look at it. The earlier, what we call cookie cutter approach used to be a 60-40 approach. 60 equity, 40 debt. I think then there's one other popular approach is your age minus 100 minus your age. That should be your equity. But I think those are not right because let's say my father is 85. I put even now 85% of his money into equity because he doesn't need the money. Whereas a 30-year-old person may need to pay housing loans for which they cannot take a very risky portfolio approach. So it's very, very individual. If you can't do it, give it to a professional, let them manage it for you. Otherwise, once in a year, look at your finances, spend a Sunday, see whether any asset class has gone crazy, like what has happened in the last 3 years, for like what Sir is saying. And if it's gone too much beyond your limit, then cut it off and put it somewhere else. Yeah.
Nice answer. Vijayji, your thoughts on this?
So how to look at fixed income, it is very important that you look at 4C. The first C is character. जो आपसे पैसा ले रहा है उसका character कैसा है? How do you judge a character? You judge a character from a past experiences. कि past में इसने पैसा लिया है, इसकी नीयत कैसी है? You can नीयत आप अपने experience से judge कर सकते हो. So until unless first box is tick, don't move to next box. So first character of a person, and if you don't know character of the person, don't lend to that person, whatever the organization is. So first is character. Second is cash flow. If somebody is borrowing from you, he needs to return money back to you. How he is going to return money back to you? Does he have a predictable cash flow? From where he is going to return you money? So second is cash flow. So first is covenant, second is cash flow. If both these boxes are not ticked, no point looking at covenant and condition. Covenant and condition is to make others, the borrower's life difficult rather than recovering our own money. And in India, we know for a normal person to go to court and get money is very, very difficult. So apply these two metrics when you lend money to somebody. Couple of things you can keep in mind. The banking industries, NBFCs calling you left, right, and center to give loan to you. And these loans are given at 7.5% to 10%. Now they have 60,000, 1 lakh plus branches of banks, so many NBFC ready to lend money to 10%. Why somebody sees so good in you that is taking money from your 12%? The first red flag should come in your mind. Second red flag you can look at is look at the debt portfolio of mutual fund. Look at debt portfolio of credit fund, look at debt portfolio of AIF. These guys are struggling to get assets. Now they're expert, which create a lot of interesting covenant. If these guys are not lending to them, why somebody is coming to you? Apply these metrics when you lend money on the fixed income side. Third, which is very important to keep in mind, that the role of fixed income has changed. Earlier, fixed income was return generating asset. Me and Raghav, when he was in other mutual fund and I was in HDFC mutual fund, when we started our career, 10-year GSEC was 14%. RBI relief bond was 12% tax-free. So you had bond delivering you those kind of return. Today, role of fixed income has completely changed. Fixed income today is for protection. Is to what Raghav said, to give a shock observer. So whenever you look at fixed income investing, keep these metrics in mind and write these metrics in your investment policy. Then you will have less accident when it comes to fixed income.
So friends, I think we are done up with the panel discussion. There is one last section that is rapid fire round. I'll request, because this was an idea came from one of the panelists, that we stand up and do this rapid fire round so that we are on our toes while answering this rapid fire round. So,
I must take debit for this idea. If you like it, yeah, debit, credit. If it's a good idea, you like it, credit goes to Jitendra because he enabled it. But if you guys are not happy with the format, that's my idea, PC. Right?
So nice of you, sir. So the first and foremost question, I keep it open to everyone. So whosoever answers it first, that's done. So markets today, fear or opportunity?
Opportunity.
One word to describe the Indian equity market over the next decade.
Compounding.
Compliance or conviction, which holds CAs back more in markets?
Compliance.
I think they go for conviction, should go for more conviction.
Yeah.
One skill CAs must develop to succeed in wealth creation.
They must be able to handle uncertainty.
Uncertainty. Nice.
And improve your ability to narrate things.
Yeah. Storytelling.
Improve your ability to sell. If you can't sell, you are not good enough.
Great. Biggest mistake professionals make while advising on markets?
Fear of going wrong.
Fear of going wrong. Active investing or disciplined long-term investing?
Discipline long term.
I think common answer for everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
One habit that builds long-term investor wealth?
Passion with patience.
Passion with patience.
Super.
Regular investing.
Regular investing. One thing CA should stop doing when discussing market with clients?
Returns.
Returns. Any more?
Giving too much gyan.
Gyan.
Yep, giving too much gyan.
Gyan. Trust and wealth advisory is built faster through returns or communication. Your take.
Communication.
Communication.
Communication. Returns are uncertain, so you need to be very clear what you're communicating. So you should communicate risk before you communicate return to the client.
I would say proactive communicate.
Yeah. Super.
Right, right. And the last question, one career myth about capital markets that CAs should ignore. One career myth.
That it is volatile, that it is unpredictable, that it is driven by a speculator, that is being manipulated by fund manager, that LIC buy करता है, कोई सच्चे नहीं इसमें. Market is completely driven by earning, and earning is driven by GDP expansion.
So friends, I think...
And you see the earnings much before many of us. So in that sense, you are actually seeing it you have a front row seat to earnings compared to at least me over here, basically. So.
Market is always right.
Market is always right. Sir, एक minute, please. आप हाथ में रखिए. I just wish to request all three of you with one concluding remarks that you wish to put in the minds of all the people sitting here. एक छोटे sentence में या एक दो sentences में, please आपका concluding remarks of the entire session.
I will paraphrase a beautiful ad. It's a nice ad. It's a soft drink. So डर के आगे जीत है. Right. So please step out of your comfort zones. It is a bit worrying, but once you cross that, I think the world is yours. Yeah.
डर के आगे जीत है. देवेन भाई.
The passion of investing is important. You require lots of patience. If you have that patience, I think you could live like Warren Buffett.
Very good. Excellent.
आप लोहाना समाज है, ये warrior community है आप लोगों की. A warrior is not somebody who is not scared. He is scared, but he know what to be done. तो डर जो सैनिक होता है उसको डर नहीं लगता, ऐसा नहीं है. But he conquer the fear. So if you want to go in capital market, you should have ability to conquer the fear.
So friends, I think round of applause for everyone. Mere thank you would not be enough, but sir, we don't have anything further to be done, but a graceful thank you to each one of you for coming down, sparing out time. We thank the organizing team, the entire team from the volunteer side. Also, without you, without the audience, this session would not be complete, would not be meaningful. So thank you everyone for joining. And thanks to Satish Bhai, because he thought through and he gave this session to us. Along with him, Bharat Bhai, we missed him today, and the entire organizing team, along with the convener, Hasmukh Bhai. So thank you everyone, and we'll be continuing with the next session immediately. Thank you so much.